Hello everybody, welcome back to the video. In this video, we're going to be talking about bossing. I want to give you guys a lot of really good tips for early game bossing because I know a lot of you guys are in the challengers world and you're probably doing party bossing every single week. Maybe you're duoing, trioing, or whatever. Or in general, even if you are watching this video in the future outside of the challenger world, it's going to have a lot of really good information and tips on how to clear these bosses way more effectively so you're not the person that dies out, so you're not the person that red dots or causing any trouble to the party in general. And it'll also make you a lot better at the game. The bosses that I want to go over are going to be the typically harder weekly bosses for early game players. So stuff like Zachem through Cygnus, including CRA. We're not going to be going over that because that's like super like beginner stuff. We're going to be talking about hard Lotus, hard Damien, Slime, Lucid, Will, Gloom, Vhilla, and Darknell. So basically the Lomian to C10E tier. Most people can get to these types of bosses and most people do these in a party, especially during the high season points of this game. Another thing I want to mention is we're not going to be going over every single mechanic of the bosses. This isn't a guide to every single boss and every single mechanic that the boss has. This is a useful tips video for how you can play these bosses better. So instead of just going in there, bursting, dying, and then waiting 30 seconds to res, and then trying to burst again and barely blue dotting, I'm going to teach you guys how to actually position better, what to really look out for, and just these tips alone should dramatically improve your gameplay. Even if you don't know every single little tiny detail of the boss, these tips are going to be crucial for clearing. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, or maybe you are interested in any of my other videos, definitely be sure to subscribe so you know when videos get uploaded, and it's a great way of supporting the channel. Also, pull up to the live streams, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch, and of course, join the Discord where you can join the community and get help with whatever you need. All right, so the first boss that I want to talk about is Vhilla. Now, before you even enter the boss, I would highly recommend getting healing fams. Now, any amount of healing fams is good, and you could get healing fams even just from common ranked fams. So like even these gray ones, you could still get at least a little bit of healing, and anything is better than nothing. Even just one heal fam or two heal fams is going to be a huge difference. So I would highly recommend doing it, especially when you're party bossing, because typically in a party, you're not going to need a ton of damage because you guys can all support each other. You guys are most likely way more over geared than the boss's requirements anyways, so you should try and focusing on survival in this boss. The next thing that I want to show you guys are the safe spots. This is something that's very important in Vhilla, and something that you should always play around. So for example, all these spots in the red rectangles are safe from strings, and these are the spots that you generally want to play around and position around. So for example, the middle spot right here, this is safe. The right wall, which everyone loves to go to, and then the left, but not exactly at the wall, it's just a little bit from the left. So these are like the three really easy ones to see, but then there's also two more that are pretty easy to see as well if you know what to look for. So there's the left side of the pillar. You see how there's like a dark side and a light side over here? The dark side here on the left is safe, but for the one on the right, it's the light side on the right side over here that's safe. Now these two on the middle left and middle right are a little harder to tell. It is good to know them, but there isn't a very like clear signifier that shows you where to position for these ones, so they're a little bit harder. But as long as you know some of the safe spots, it's also going to be huge for you. And if you know where the safe spots are, then you'll also know where the strings are. So whenever you need to catch strings to cleanse your skulls, you'll know that the strings are in between these spots. So you'll know where to get them whenever you need to. Something that's really important about Vhilla are these gas clouds and these skulls. Now, these things are very dangerous and something that you should not ignore. They're honestly more dangerous than the boss's mechanics a lot of the time. If you stand on the skull, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. And this is why I usually don't like people just going to the corner immediately. The reason for that is these skulls are going to eventually get to you, and they're just going to put a bunch of like hazards in the corner here, and it's just going to hurt everybody a lot. So it's really important to play around the safe spots, because if you're just permanently stuck in the corner, the gas is going to spawn on you, the skulls are going to spawn on you, and you won't know how to dodge things. You also don't have the option of going behind her, because a lot of boss mechanics in this fight can be dodged by just going behind her. But if she's in the corner, you can't go behind her. Another thing that's really important for this fight is you should know that the hero's will skill and Erdo will allows you to catch a string without getting stunned. So if I press it here, I cut the string, but I didn't get stunned. This is what's known as like a quick cleanse or a fast cleanse, and you can use this to catch multiple strings in a row. So it's actually really useful in case there's not a lot of time left and you have to cleanse fast. So you can see here, I was able to catch a string right there and cleanse really quickly. Now, you should know that every single time you catch a skull, there's going to be shards that are going to spit out from the hand on top of you. So these random shards, they're not random. They happen every time you catch a skull. Another thing that's also really good for this boss to know is when you know you're about to cleanse, wait for her to teleport before you cleanse. Because if she walks over the altar, she's going to break it. So usually what I like doing, especially if I have enough time, see, she just broke the altar there. She just teleported. So now her teleport's on cooldown. Now I can go and get the cleanse and I know she's not going to break it. All right, next up is Darknell. So the most important thing about Darknell is that every single time he attacks, he summons E-bosses. So what that means is the most important thing for this is to know how to go in and out of the boss, because every single time he attacks, the area around him becomes very dangerous. So you have to constantly play this little back and forth game with him. If you are constantly jumping in and out of his attacks, then you usually won't get hit by E-bosses. Another thing that's very important is keeping him away from the corner is better than keeping him in the corner, because just like Vhilla, a lot of mechanics can be dodged just from going side to side. You don't have to always have him in a corner and think that's more damage uptime. No, that's not actually the case. You will actually get more damage if you can stay side to side on him and maintain attacking him while jumping back and forth. Now, keep in mind, the lower HP he gets, the more E-bosses that he spawns. So the fight does get more and more dangerous, and this concept of jumping in and out becomes way, way, way more important. These meters are also really, really important to try your best to not get hit by. They do a lot of damage, and it's better once you see them to try and play on the other side of the map where they're not there. But something to keep in mind about Darknell is his attack patterns are also dependent on how far you are from him. So if I'm really far from him like this, he's probably going to do an FMA or some sort of gap closing move like this to try and get closer to me. You see, I'm really far from him here. He's most likely going to try and do something that is exactly just like that, like the FMA that's going to try and hit across the map. But if I'm next to him this whole time, constantly jumping from side to side, dodging the E-bosses, he's pretty much never going to do the FMA. So when you're party bossing, you can actually make the boss's mechanics much harder by not positioning well. If you're just sitting here in the corner waiting for your burst to come up, he's going to keep spamming FMA or cleave, which is another very dangerous attack. It does like 90% of your HP. As you can see, he does another FMA there because I'm far from him. So the positioning in this boss is actually really, really important. All right, next up is Gloom. So what you should know about Gloom is when you're in the left corner over here, the tornadoes that spawn can never hit you. So these tornadoes that are spawning, if you're all the way in the left corner, you won't get hit. But forcing yourself in a corner is dangerous, because if a ball falls on your head, in particular the blue ball that stuns you, you can die to other stuff like the tentacles. So you should know that the corner is safe, but you shouldn't always rely on the corner all the time. Another thing that's really important about Gloom is the right side of the map has more space than the left side of the map. Now, that might not make any sense at first, but once you see the big laser beam come out, then you'll see what I mean, that the right side has more space than the left side. So the right side is typically safer, but if you are min-maxing for damage, you would always hide on the left side because the boss is closer to you, which means you can hit him more. Another thing that's really, really important about Gloom is he has certain HP thresholds that if you were to get to them, he opens up again. So obviously this boss, you can only really do a lot of damage to him when his eyes open. But if you get to a certain amount of HP, in particular, 70% of the HP bar, 40% of the HP bar, and 15% of the HP bar, if you can get past these damage thresholds, he will just instantly open up again, just like this. So it's really important to, if possible, prepare for it, because I just used my burst right here, right? And because I still have my burst that lasts like 30 seconds, I could continue to keep bursting because he's going to open up again immediately if I got him past that damage threshold. So if you know that a damage threshold is coming up, then you would know that like bursting right before it is really good, because then you could finish your burst after it opens up again. So this is what I mean. This left side over here has less space than the right side. So if you want to be as safe as possible, stay on the right side. Now, the next thing that I want to show you guys is some tips for darkness, because I know the darkness kills a lot of people. If you don't know how you get gauge, you just get gauge naturally, but also if you get hit by a lot of stuff, you get gauge faster. This gauge over here determines when you're going to be in darkness or not. So when you're in darkness, the most important thing to dodge are the hands on the floor. The hands on the floor have a really high vertical hitbox, so even if I'm like up here or something, they could still hit me. like over here, see? And then I have to tap left and right. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is you don't want to stand in the same spot for too long. You see, there's a little diamond that's going to spawn on your previous location, and it's going to spawn these like little seahorses. So if you are moving around, but not moving around too much, because if you move around too much, you're not going to be able to see the hands below you, then you won't have those little monsters spawning on top of you. If they spawn on top of you, you get sealed, and it's like the worst thing ever. You can't use any of your skills. You can't jump around or anything. Save your Hero's Will skills, these two, Will of Verda or Hero's Will, for that phase, because it's going to make you get unsealed and have it so that the little monsters don't do any damage to you or don't like status you or anything. So it's really, really important to have that. So you see, I have a damage window appearing right here. And because I'm going to get it below the 40% threshold, after he does his little laser beam here, you see there's way more space on the right. He's just going to instantly open up again. Another thing that's really important to know is that if you were to use your origin skill, your 6-drop origin skill, right before he does the laser, it's just going to cancel the laser. Like, he's not going to do the laser at all. So if you're in a party, you should set up an origin every 2 minutes so that you can always cancel laser and you don't have to deal with that mechanic. Another thing I wanted to mention about the darkness that I didn't mention is if you know you're about to die, just run away from everybody else, because if you die next to people in the darkness, then you will spread your darkness around to them and you'll fill up their gauge a lot. But the opposite is also true. If you cleanse the darkness, meaning like you get out of it and you didn't die, you will also reduce the gauge of everybody around you. Next up is slime. So the most important thing about slime, in my opinion, is to never be at the top. Now, if you are up here, the slime teleports to a random player every once in a while, and it makes it really, really hard to hit him when he's up here, because not a lot of classes have an attack hitbox that can hit from below him safely. Like, I'm gonna have to jump, but if I have to jump and hit him, then my attacks are going to not be as fast. And if you're up here and you want to hit him, then you have to deal with all of his mechanics. You have to deal with the laser, you have to deal with the stomp, you have to deal with him pushing you, all this type of stuff. But if you are at the bottom, or the middle at least, then you are able to hit him from above him and not have to deal with a lot of his mechanics. You can see I could still hit him here. His hitbox is tall enough to hit him from a platform above him. But if you're at the top, there's nothing above him, so you can't hit him. So what I like doing is I like to hover him around the bottom 2 platforms if possible. That way I can always maintain high damage uptime. Next thing that you should know is closing these gates. The blue one and the orange one are generally the easiest ones to close. The reason for that is because if a rock spirit is on this 3rd to bottom platform right here, if you shoot it in any direction, it's pretty much going to always go into the door no matter what. So it's really easy to close these 2 doors because of that. The other thing is you can also shoot a rock spirit from kind of far away. So what I mean by that is you don't have to be right in front of it to shoot it. I could stand like right over here and aim it up, and it's gonna still hit this one over here. So you don't have to actually be on the platform to hit it and then misposition the boss. So you can see you can also even do it like mid-air. You can do it very quickly. And then once you close at least one, you're probably fine. And then the other thing that you should know is going for these rocks can be very dangerous because he'll just teleport up there and then the boss is mispositioned. So only go for it if you really, really have to. And then another thing that's really, really important is the first wave during the test is always going to be green no matter what. So because the first one you know is always green, then that means you always need to have at least one door fully blocked, and you need to send the slime wave into that door. Another thing that's important about the slime wave is it's always going to take the longest path every single time. So if the slime wave lands over here, then it's going to make a right because there's more distance to the right. It's always going to choose that path, so keep that in mind. Next up is Will. Now Will is another boss that you're going to want healing fams in, especially for phase 2, so keep that in mind. Now for Will, he has a bunch of different phases. So for phase 1, the most important thing is to not play in the corners. If you play in a corner like here, he's going to teleport to you, right? And when he does the tornado attack, he is going to cause you a lot of trouble because the tornado attack goes across the map. And if he does it in the corner and he's facing, let's say, left or something, it's going to make it really, really hard to dodge the tornado. See, this tornado attack, if you were in the corner and he does it, it's going to go across the whole map. And then the only way to dodge it is by using your moonlight to switch to the other room, which you might not want to be in the other room. So it's just better to position in the middle section of the map. That way you can go from side to side, because going from side to side on the boss is really, really important. All right, so make sure you calm wherever the eye is so you know exactly where it is, and make sure you don't hit this middle altar too much. Whenever you get a yellow orb, just stop hitting it, cancel your summons, change any sort of like AoE skill, turn it off, and then turn it back on and after, because if you are hitting this thing in the middle, the balls are going to spawn in the other side and you're just going to kill your team. All right, so for phase 2, make sure you got your heal pimps out so you don't die because you can't heal in here. Most important thing about this phase is to stay side to side, obviously. His attack is you will know which direction he's attacking by the mirror on the floor. So you can see he's facing right over here, but the mirror could attack in a different direction. So always look at the mirror if you want to know which direction that he's attacking. So you can see he was facing left, but the mirror attacked right there. And then of course the test is also very, very important. You want to hug the left wall. Whenever there's a crack, you have to get hit. And the leg can never spawn in the same point 2 times in a row. So since one spawned over here, the next one has to spawn in front of it, and so on. So one's going to spawn on the left, and then in the middle, and then the third spot, and then you back reset to the corner. 1, 2, 3. And that's what always happens. So 1, and the next one will spawn in front of me, and then in front of me again. Now, even if you were to get hit by the leg during the test, it doesn't kill you if you're at full HP. So if you get hit, make sure you use your moonlight and then manually heal up. Now, keep in mind, you don't want to stand over here in the corners right after the test, because if he spawns a web, then you will just die instantly. You see, I got hit by a leg there, but I was still able to heal. Another thing that's really useful about this moonlight is if you heal right at the start of it, your cooldown for healing will come up right at the end of the cooldown for this. So you can actually heal 2 times per moonlight usage. So make sure as soon as you press your moonlight, you spam your heal so that you can heal immediately and again at the end. So now for phase 3, some really good tips about this is you're always safer behind him than you are in front of him, just like many of these bosses. If you have poison like I do right here, you do not want to stand on your teammates because the poison will kill them. So call out what position you are with poison, and you also have to keep hitting the boss when you have poison. I wasn't hitting the boss there, so I died. So you have to keep hitting him. That does include summons. If you have summons that are hitting him, then that's fine. Keep that in mind. The best time to cleanse a web is when he's doing the white attack, because when he has the white eyes attack and you have to move, see, yellow you don't move, but white, when you have to move, you might as well go cleanse, right? Because you're moving anyways. So I have poison here. I'm going to place my summon down, and you see I'm not going to be dying, even though I'm not physically attacking. He does white here, which means I have to move, which means this is a perfect time to go and cleanse. He's also untargetable when he does the yellow and white eye attacks, so you can't even hit him regardless. So you should go cleanse because that's literally the only thing you can do in that moment. So it's really important to kind of just like stay back and forth on this boss, because you'll dodge most of attacks if you do that. Another thing that's really important is this spot right here where I'm standing, immediately right here, is the safest spot from the leg patterns. So similar to how Vhilla has safe spots for the strings, this is the safest spot for the legs. You can see this big web over here where my cursor is. There's going to be a point sticking out from it right here. If you are standing right above this point, there's only one pattern of these legs that can hit you. So this is a really, really good spot if you're really min-maxing to try and play around, because if you can hover this spot as much as possible, you won't get hit by the legs, which means you'll generate more moonlight, which means you can remove more webs, which means you could stay in the phase a lot longer before webbing out. All right, next up is Lucid. Now for Lucid, for phase 1, the most important thing is to look above your head and not get squashed by a golem. Now these golems, including the mushroom, are very, very dangerous. Typically classes have a lot of AoE these days, so if you're just constantly attacking, you'll kill the golems no problem. But if a dragon like this happens, the map turns green and there's golems in the way, you're not going to be able to go towards the safe spot, which is on the dragon itself. So it's really important to constantly clear out these golems. If a golem spawns on top of your head, it will do massive damage to you like this. It's going to do a ton of damage, and the golem is going to keep attacking you over and over again, and it's going to be very, very bad. Now you also can't really jump over these golems. If you jump over the golem, it still hurts you a lot and you can't heal for a second. But if your class has really high jumps, you could actually go over the golem if you're high enough. Like if you reach like the ceiling of the map, you can actually go over it. And I failed. You see, even up here at that level wasn't high enough. So you have to be really, really high. Not every class can do it, but it's very, very important to know that. So these golems are very dangerous. Lucid herself doesn't do too much. Like the sickles, as long as you back up a little bit, you'll be fine. Also, these butterflies that are spawning around the map, whenever you see a lot of them, like this is a pretty good amount, you just want to hold interact on the horn. You could also just obviously jump over the dragon like this and hold blink. You want to hold interact on the horn and it'll cleanse all the butterflies. If you don't, then the butterflies are just going gonna kill everybody. All right, so for phase 2, there's some really important safe spots you should know about. This bottom part with the portal is a safe spot from certain mechanics. This top right platform right here is also a safe spot, but my favorite safe spot is to the right edge over here. The reason why is because whenever she does the touch pattern, you will not take any damage at all from it. Now, you also won't take damage if you're up here, but you have to make sure that you're on the right side of up here and you have to jump. But if you're over here on the bottom, you have to make sure that you're ducking to not get hit by the touch pattern. Now, I like this spot on the right because you don't have to duck or anything, and you can still cleanse, just like how in phase 1 you had to cleanse butterflies. You can cleanse from this spot as well. It's pretty useful. Another useful thing about this phase is you can actually cleanse from up here. So just in case there's a dragon or something happening, but you really need to cleanse, you would actually be able to just from up here if you're at the edge of the platform. Now, you should keep in mind that whenever a golem spawns in, it'll break the platform beneath it. So let's say you're in a really low damage party clear and you want to go to phase 3. Obviously, in phase 3 Lucid, she's in the middle of the map, so you're going to want to be bursting her probably from the middle of the map. But if you know that a golem is about to spawn, they spawn 2 minutes from when they broke the platform, then you would want to wait for the platform to break so that you have 2 minutes to do your burst in the middle before you actually commit to it. Now, during the laser attack, you don't have to do anything too special. You don't have to go for any crazy movement skills. You could kind of just like walk it off or drop down. It's okay to get hit by a laser or two. You don't have to just like jump around and go crazy, because usually if you do that, you're just going to end up dying and you don't even know what's happening. So just take it slow. All right, next up is Damien. One of the worst fights in this whole game. I hate this guy so much. So for phase 1, it's really important to know 2 things. The first thing is that he will teleport to a random player. So because he will teleport to a random player, it's really important, as you can see, he just teleported to me, to not be too far away from everybody else in your party. The reason for that is, let's say you're in the corner over here, everybody else is on the right side, and he teleports to you. You bind him during bursts and everything. If everybody is over here on the right and they used all their bursts on the right, that means they're going to miss so much of their damage because you are the one by yourself and he teleported to you. So generally, you want to stay near people so that way you don't misposition the boss. The other thing that's really important is this sword. This sword will constantly fly around and put itself into the ground. Now, you always want to burst while the sword is in the ground, because that way it's not going to mess you up. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to spawn on top of you and kill you. So let's say I'm about to burst, right? And I know I have to burst. And I'm like, okay, I have to burst. I have to burst. What am I going to do? I'm going to wait for this sword to plant itself in the ground first, just like that. And then I'm going to go burst. So I'm going to bind him. And now I can burst because I know the sword is not going to be in the way. It's not going to bother me and I can burst. The other thing is you can cleanse when the sword is in the ground. Even if you're at like 2 out of 7, you should try your best to cleanse, because sometimes the opportunity to cleanse doesn't come up for a very long time. Like if I didn't plant the sword there preemptively, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to cleanse, and then it would have just delayed it more and more. So if you're able to cleanse, you should. It's just better that way so you don't have to deal with it. Now for phase 2, it's really important to position this ball on the right. He loves to reset his position to the left side. So if you are trying to manage this ball and you know you're about to burst, let the ball come all the way to the right. And something that's really useful to get to the left side very quickly is by using the blink skill. The blink skill has a pretty high likelihood of sending you towards the left side of the map pretty quickly. Now that was a low roll blink, but because the ball is on the right side and it has to rush back to me, I can get like some damage in before it comes and reduces all my damage again. So now I have to wait for the ball to come back before I can really hurt him. So I'm going to teleport again, and you can see I teleported pretty much right next to him, right? Which allows me to do a lot of damage while the ball is on its way to me still. But now since the ball has come, it's like, okay, well, now I can't really do damage, because if you're standing in this ball, you do 90% less damage. So this is really, really important. You got to make sure that the ball is not on the party. If the ball is targeted to you and you're in a party, then just tank and like stand there and hold the ball for your party, because you might think that like you trying to hit the boss while the ball is on you is helping, but it's not. You're going to do 0 damage, and you're just going to make the ball go to other people, and then they're all going to do 0 damage. So that's like the most important thing with this fight. And lastly, let's talk about Lotus. So for Lotus phase 1, something that's very important is the shield. Now you should know that the shield can be reduced by Lotus hitting himself with different attacks, in particular that like crosshair laser thing. So you want to always stay within the bounds of like these 2 giant wires. So there's like this big wire over here and then this big wire over here. You want to always stay like in between it, so that way all of his attacks will hit himself as well and reduce the shield whenever he gets it. So he's about to get the shield here, right? And I'm going to put these crosshairs on him, and you'll see that the shield will be reduced a ton because he hit himself with it. Now you never want to burst with the shield up ever, because when the shield is up, you also do way more reduced damage. It's not not just like, oh, I'm going to burst him and then blow past the shield and then the burst is going to continue. No, a lot of your burst's damage is going to be wasted on the shield. It's worse than like a regular shield because you have damage reduction as well on the shield. So that's like the most important thing with phase 1 is really make sure you're towards the middle of the map so that you can break his shield quickly. Next up for phase 2, the safest spots to fight him are on the top left corner over here and the bottom right corner over here. Now, I personally like the top left corner because this way I won't get knocked up into the horizontal bombardment whenever he does that pattern. But the bottom right is also safe in its own way because you can't get pushed off the platform. Now, keep in mind that he does teleport to a player all the time. So if he teleports to a player, then the boss will be mispositioned. Now, something that's really useful is when he does his blue attack, you can actually Hero's Will out of the stun part of it. So this blue attack, you're going to have a blue marker over you. When the blue marker expands, you're going to be knocked back. But if you press Hero's Will as you get knocked back or before you get knocked back, you won't get stunned because it knocks you back and stuns you. So it's actually really dangerous. So that's something that's really good to hear as well. Another thing that's really important with this fight is you could get a lot of value going from side to side and staying on top of him. If you stay on top of him and go side to side, you will dodge so many of his mechanics. This little machine that follows you around, if you stand in it for too long, it's just going to knock you upward. So if he's positioned on the bottom right and the little machine is positioned here, you're going to be knocked upward. And sometimes that could be really bad. So whenever you see that like that machine thing like chasing you around, try your best to position it away from the boss. It's usually good to just like up jump it and let it stay in the air with you and then just fall whenever it starts shocking. Lotus phase 3, it's the same thing. Top left, bottom right. But the difference is there's a portal now. And this portal is very, very useful because you could dodge so many mechanics with it. Another thing that's really useful is this horizontal bombardment attack. If you are hugging the corner where it's shooting out of, it's also a safe spot. So even if you're on the wrong platform or the wrong side, just hug the wall. If you hug the wall, you're always going to be safe. Now, this fight, you're not going to want to stand still. If you stand still for too long, so many things are going to hurt you. Now, I positioned it over here because I know that that area is some place that I'm not going to be in ever, right? You don't want to stay in the same spot for too long because Lotus has a lot of attacks that push you away from him. So you're going to want to constantly do an in and out type maneuver with him. It's really important to stay on top of him because a lot of his attacks don't hit directly on top of him. But you don't want to always stay on top of him the whole time because some attacks like this one will push you away from him. So it's important to stay on top of him. But whenever you see he's doing an attack, probably step away or maybe even like up jump and then you'll be fine. Farwin is also really, really important in this fight. If you have it, putting it down in like one of the safe areas could like actually do infinite value for you. Now, you don't need to actually know what every single mechanic does and hurts you. The most important ones are just like the one shots, like these chains that hit you constantly or these like wires. They don't do too much damage. The little crosshairs that target you don't do too much damage, but stuff like you getting pushed around or like this push over here, this one's pretty dangerous because it pushes you quite far, or like the platforms pushing you around is dangerous. And then this full map attack, if you get hit by any of these lasers, it's pretty much GG's. But if you're standing on top of him while he's doing the explosion around him after that, you won't take any damage. But that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to subscribe. Like I said, it helps out a ton. And also, if you have any questions or any tips for any of these bosses, definitely leave a comment down below. Also, if you want me to keep doing this for even further bosses in the game or whatever bosses you want, definitely let me know. I felt like these bosses are ones that most people are doing on a week-to-week basis, whether in a party or soloing, and these tips alone could help you out so much. A lot of these tips wouldn't necessarily be like in a pure mechanics guide. These tips come from somebody who has done these bosses like as they came out for many, many years, and it's just stuff you learn over time from playing this game. Anyways, I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Let me know what other types of videos you want, and if you watched the whole thing, say the word Dave. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. Shout out to my beautiful members: Blazefire, Shooms, Shagad, Ravi Espa, Koga, Skittles, CKJ, Vampiric X, Fresh and Juicy, Kelvin, Cloud Figs, Trashbot, Henzo, Dylan, Cloudy Quesos, Jason B, Sylvester L, J.A., Russell M, Mochi Teddy, Zero Sama, Shredbot, Michael R, and Suna TM. I appreciate you guys so much. If you guys ever want to submit art, put it in the Discord fan art channel, and I'll see you for the next video.